Can everybody hear us?
A lot of fans.
Is this working? Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? Yay! Lots of energy in this room. How many people here invested in real estate? Yay! Quite a lot. How many people here invested in crypto? Amazing. And how many people here invested in the metaverse? Wow. Quite a good crowd. So the four of us here represent different facets of real estate, I would say even real estate investment in this space, right? So we have experts in investing, experts in design, experts in business and experience building, and the technology that helps us invest and benefit and distribute the value, right? So why don't we let everybody on stage briefly introduce themselves? Karthik.
So thank you, Yael. Pleasure to be here. It's my fourth year in a row, or third year speaking at NFT.NYC. So I'm a veteran. There's a talk from 2019 where I introduced Decentraland when nobody knew what the metaverse was, when Facebook was still not called Meta, and everybody stared at me and said, "Why is this guy talking about the metaverse and real estate?" I'm also in the P2P Foundation where Satoshi Nakamoto published the white paper. So CoinMarketCap has a documentary on me. So we put Karthik in CoinMarketCap. One of the first human beings to mine crypto, one of the first human beings to trade crypto. I have a company called Blockchain Monk, so we work with large brands, help them launch in the metaverse. I have a fund called Coin Stratagem. We own a lot of real estate in Decentraland, Sandbox, and also in the Cardano ecosystem with the Pavia and Carda Station and other things. And finally, I also run an accelerator, which is called Blockchain Velocity. We work with a lot of metaverse companies. So very excited to be here, fourth year in a row, and happy to see my fellow panelists. Very exciting panel.
Thanks, Karthik. So Karthik's here with the investment hat. So Kostas.
I'm Kostas Ketikidis. I'm a co-founder and the head of metaverse developments at Every Realm. Our company is one of the largest metaverse investors and developers. We work with brands like JP Morgan, Narcos, Outfront. We create activations. We have 3 different funds. We invest in the metaverse and manage NFTs. Luis.
Hi, my name is Luis Fernandez. I call myself a hybrid creative. I'm trained as an architect, practiced for many years, built a lot of luxury retail stores. That kind of transitioned me into fashion. I had my own menswear brands for many years and have gotten into NFTs in the metaverse, designing what I call digital experiences and buildings for the metaverse. I launched my first gallery through Mona Gallery a couple of months ago, and that was conceived specifically for how do you create a space digitally to display artwork, whether it's NFTs or real world art, and then also use that space for Zoom, for meetings, for exhibits. I'm about to launch a pretty extensive project with another platform called Metamundo in a couple of weeks, and that one's a pretty extensive land building. When you buy those assets, it'll drop into all the different metaverse spaces or platforms. So Decentraland, CryptoVoxels. So that's sort of my hat. Because I was in fashion for a long time, I'm starting to get a lot of requests from the people in my fashion network in terms of how to bring retail into the metaverse, which makes perfect sense. And I guess that's where you guys step in.
Thank you so much. So Kostas is, I guess, responsible in putting businesses in the metaverse that make money, right? That for all of us to make money there, right? And Luis is for designing these experiences. And myself, Yael, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Solid Block. We tokenize real estate either in realverse or metaverse. And we are creating opportunities for anybody to participate in the blockchain economy. So first and foremost, let's talk about the dirt, which is quite different in the metaverse, but let's call it land, right? Whatever that pixelated matter, I guess it's easy to understand it in terms of land plots. So Karthik, how does an investor really select a land plot to invest in? What are the considerations?
Well, it's the golden billion-dollar question or whatever, and the main reason is, first of all, we need to figure out which is the right metaverse to buy the land. So we have Blockchain Monk, which is my consulting company. We work with large brands, and then I also have Coin Strategem, which is my investment company, where we've been buying a lot of land. And the most important thing now is that there are about 200 metaverses. There are metaverses in Cardano, there's metaverses in Ethereum, Solana, you name a protocol, near protocol. Everybody in the mother is building a metaverse, and they're doing land sale. So the thing is, it's all about Metcalfe's law. It's about network effects. It's about number of people hanging around the metaverses. So the daily active users of most of these metaverses is less than 10,000. So the most important thing is, who's hanging around, who's spending time, who's giving attention. It's attention economy at the end of the day. And so select a metaverse which is like large enough for, so that there are enough users hanging around, because at the end of the day, if there are no users, there's no marketing, there's no branding. And the whole point of the metaverse is a new interface to the internet, and it's a new place for commerce. And so if there are no people, there is no commerce. So we have in Cardano we have Pavia. We are big investors in Pavia. We own a lot of land in Pavia. We own a lot of land in Decentraland from early on in 2019. Basically introduced Decentraland to the audience here in NFT.NYC, and talking about the importance of investing in the videos available on YouTube. If you put in NFT.NYC Karthik, all 3 years of my videos are available, and I talk about specifically how to do land selection. And so there are these large brands which have land, and there's going to be a lot of events around that. Like for example, Pavia, there's something called the Pavia Stadium, where the Pavia owners have a huge stadium where there are going to be music concerts. It's going to be like Snoop Dogg just launched his own thing. And so selecting the right real estate where there are events, where there's a flow of people is super important, because at the end of the day, you have to develop your real estate. You have to lend it out to a PepsiCo or to a Nike so that they have their banners there. So you need to have footfall. And so selection of the area within the metaverse with central entities like a large stadium or a place where large brands own the real estate is super important. We are coming up with a formula. We're in fact going to publish a paper at ACM hopefully on land selection, land optimization in the metaverse. So how do you apply this to do that?
Cool. So from what I understood, number one, important to choose a platform that has a lot of traffic. And number two, find places within the metaverse that do have a lot of traffic that the brands can utilize. So what about the rest of the...
It's true that there's no traffic, fortunately.
Addressing the elephant in
early
the room.
days.
So yeah, Kostas, what else can we invest in right now in the metaverse besides the land? Is there anything else to invest in right now?
I think for brands, the opportunity is purely a marketing exercise. You have to be the first in the metaverse. If you, for example, are a financial sector firm, and this is a great opportunity to reach a new audience. This is a great opportunity to generate revenue outside of these platforms, because unfortunately, revenue is not the main thing you can do right now in these metaverse platforms. Our company operates a shopping district in the Decentraland. We create activation for brands like JP Morgan, Majid Al Futam, who's a Middle Eastern conglomerate. We create activations for them in order to make their audience, in order for them to reach a new audience, which is purely interested in crypto, but they are also interested in learning more about these brands. So the way I see it is the metaverse is another way for us to create great content. Now the content is 2D. Web2 companies are creating 2D content, but in the metaverse, the content is 3D. So we are creating interactive content for all these brands. And I think the future for everyone is going to be 3D.
And I agree in that not just these 3D experiences, but then you also don't have physical or material limitations. And so as a brand, you're able to build much more, let's call them dreamy experiences beyond what we could build in the real world, right? So imagine you're a retailer, instead of building a 3D version of a store with hang racks and folding tables, how about telling the narrative of the brand in a much more immersive way, right? And so I think those opportunities in the metaverse are starting to be very clear. Same for performers and music. Imagine what a dream it would be if you're a musician to be able to perform from your sofa and never have to, leave your house. And so, and meet your fans and create that community around you, with, very, not having to get in there. So it's pretty cool.
So it seems like from what I'm hearing from you two is that retail is kind of like, at least for the time being and the next few months or years, is kind of the future of the metaverse. Can with your experience in designing experiential design and architectural design for retail clients, which from history we see are quickest to jump onto the web X, bandwagon, Web 1, Web 2, retail, I think, has been driving kind of the transformation of the web. Is that what's going to drive the transformation of the web to the Web 3?
I think so. I mean, we're still really at the tip of the iceberg, if that. But I think, imagine, I always say a traditional e-com site is a 2D window with a grid of product on it. Imagine that now that becomes a 3D experience, and the brand can illustrate and render those products in a much more interesting and just more immersive way.
Got it.
And so, and then tie that back to physical. And I think that dream of that time, the physical and the digital, is pretty amazing for most brands.
Great.
And part of the metaverse is also NFTs, which I think you also have some thoughts on.
Yes, absolutely. I do. So what I heard so far is invest in land in metaverses that are popular and close to where brands want to be operating. Brands are driving retail brands are driving the space right now. Mixed with some financial brands, I guess, that are promoting themselves, and that retail is going to drive the investment in the space, right? So that's what I heard so far. So with us, with Solid Block, we tokenize, number one, any securitized products. So if you want to own an asset in the real world or in the metaverse, we can securitize it and we can issue a token for you to buy. Now, on top of that, we've seen quite a few interesting use cases in the hospitality space where hospitality owners like hotels will tokenize membership or hotel rooms and will sell those on even OpenSea or any other NFT marketplace. So we've seen actually an interest in the hospitality space to open a hotel room in the metaverse. Why? Because they want to advertise their presence. They want to make sure that the users, they want to get the Web3, right? They want to get the Web3 audience. So we've seen some retailers or membership clubs and so on to open up into this space, right? To buy the right to use, the right to stay. So I think that use case for NFTs is going to be very, very interesting in the metaverse as the metaverse expands. In my personal opinion, beyond retail space, it will also expand into virtually any brand that wants to demonstrate itself in Web3, which real estate, largely commercial real estate, before you buy, before you invest, or buy even a condo for Airbnb, or buy into anything from afar, right? You will go on the metaverse and try it out. So I think that's going to be a big driver also of investment in the space. So back to you, Karthik. What about various real estate companies that recently sprung up and into the space, and what are the other ways to generate passive income on the metaverse?
Oh, so Yael, I also wanted to tell the audience that you're one of the pioneers in this industry because you tokenized the St. Regis Hotel in Aspen,
Thank
Colorado.
you.
It started the entire, real estate tokenization space. So I think you're the most qualified among all of us, and it's a privilege to be in
I
the same panel
appreciate
with
it.
you.
Thank you so much. I
So,
feel the same about you.
there are things like, this whole real estate development thing is very big right now because a lot of brands are looking at buying real estate, but they don't want to own the physical land because the physical land is very expensive. The floor price for a piece of land when I bought it was like $1,000, and now it's a decent land. Now it's $13,000, and there are hundreds of DAOs that are being created which to basically own real estate. We at least invested in like 2 different DAOs this year, put in some seed capital, and these DAOs, the only thing is just go and acquire real estate, massive real estate acquisition, or to buy studios that will basically go and build, the traditional 3D design studios are all getting in. So there's a interesting company that we recently evaluated called Wrapped Hotels, and Wrapped Hotels is going to go and buy land, and they're going to construct hotels, and they're going to rent out rooms where people can have events and concerts and things like that. And so their game is to basically buy the land, develop the land, and then market the land, just like a traditional real estate. What do you do? Like, if you buy real estate in New York, I mean, you develop the real estate and then you market the real estate, you make sure everything is clean, you have all the billboards and banners. And this is the same thing that people are doing, because if this is a new interface to the internet, and if you want to have, it's attention economy, you need to have eyeballs, you need to have people coming in. So this is a very interesting area, and I think there are these big real estate companies in New York now. I mean, I think there was Tal Alexander who recently announced that he's launching a real estate development company. The second aspect is the idea of getting a yield on your land, because I have $500,000 worth of land on different real estate projects, and recently there are things like Lending Pond. So I invested in a Cardano NFT called Ada Ape Society. It's like a Bored Ape for Cardano, and they had their own real estate drop, and the land prices go for like $3,000-4,000. The minimum floor is about $3,000 or $4,000. So I can basically stake that land, and then I can get passive income on the real estate. I
Like
can lend,
DeFi
I can borrow
on the metaverse.
on the metaverse.
I love it.
Imagine, right? I mean, if you
Yeah.
have $500,000 worth of land
Yeah.
in the
That's
metaverse,
really good.
you don't have to just sit on it.
Use it as a base asset to borrow against, just like a mortgage, right, guys? Or leverage. So what I heard, 2 things from here that are interesting. Number 1 is DeFi for the metaverse. And number 2 is to get exposure to investing in this metaverse real estate, you can actually invest in startups that are in the space. Just like to get exposure to crypto, you could invest in startups that are doing blockchain or that hold crypto on their balance sheet. So you can invest in startups, some of which here actually hold metaverse assets on their balance sheet, right? Or funds that invest in startups that hold metaverse on their balance sheet, right? That's another way to expose yourselves to investment opportunities. Kostas, I think you can elaborate on that. Why did you guys get a crossway exposure to so many metaverses?
We are metaverse agnostic. That's
Yeah.
why we have invested in 26 different platforms. Of course, most of them haven't even launched yet, unfortunately. But we find that brands that come to us don't actually want to hold any land.
Mhm.
They don't want it in the balance sheet. They don't even want to interact with a Web3 wallet. So they are looking for a turnkey solution, someone who can
Right.
has already the land, and they can use them to create a space in the metaverse and activation,
How do they
whatever
do
that is.
Yeah, how can you do that? How can you purchase, build, and use properties in the metaverse?
So we have an in-house team of game developers, 3D designers, illustrators. These are actually all the people who are building the metaverse. We have this. We think that because the concept is called land, that actually there are people who are from the real estate sector can play a big role, but actually this is early days. Everyone can join, and they have the same opportunities. Like either you are a native to the space or not.
Got it. So just like in the real world, you can, number 1, either invest in a company or buy services from a company that has in-house people that buy, build, put businesses in it and create cash flow, literally cash flow businesses, right, to do this. And or you could become a metaverse developer yourself, right, which is a more difficult route. Could be more interesting if that's something you're into. So Louis, tell me about what you find fascinating really about being that person that is going out and designing and building on their own.
I think, what I mentioned earlier, I think that that lack of physics, of materiality, of dreaming, right? And being able to tell those stories is amazing. Also, re-questioning everything, right? I love that you guys mentioned hotel rooms. I don't know how PC this room is, but a year ago, this woman commissioned me to design a house for her in the metaverse. And as we were going through the process, I called her at some point and said, we don't need bedrooms. You don't need kitchen in the metaverse. You're not sleeping. And she agreed. And she called me back 30 minutes later and said, okay, no bedrooms, but we're going to need a sex room. And for me, that was a huge aha moment of the utility of the metaverse, right? What are the things that we are going to be going to the metaverse to do? And I think, that might be another business proposition for the hotel rooms.
Well, I'm the blockchain monk, so I cannot
no
technically
chairs.
do it. But,
Yeah.
but there'll be somebody who will do it, and we'll probably invest.
But I think that ability to re-script, to redefine, and that specifically is something that is very interesting. What are we going to all be doing in the metaverse?
So my personal kind of fascination, or just in general, my curiosity is whether the metaverse is really going to be the UGC space, like user-generated space, or is it going to be dominated with brands from day one? And that's because a lot of times in the user-generated space, you have users deciding, what they need and what they want, right? And really, we are in this creator economy, the NFT economy, creator economy. That's what blockchain is all about. So it's a question to anybody here. What do you think is going to happen? Are we going to see a lot of people here in this room going out and getting a little piece on the metaverse and developing it, or are we going to see like big brands creating experiences that we will all consume?
I would say that so far we see that brands are coming first because they see it as an advertising opportunity. But I do think that in the future there's a lot of opportunities for content creators, just like you are creating content on Instagram or YouTube. You can do the same in all these platforms. And I do think maybe in a few years from now, all social media might become obsolete because you can consume all this content right inside the metaverse platform.
I wanted to add something to that. I think, and it's been interesting that we've been watching it, especially with the PFP projects, right? I had a mentor for a long time that would always say and this was 10 years back, the future of retail was going to be micro-segmentation. And back then, that didn't really sink in as much as it does now. I think we will start to see, if you think about PFPs, mostly 10,000 or less. So there's going to be a ton of little communities, right? And so rather than a big Walmart that feeds millions and millions of people, it'll be just smaller communities, smaller markets. And, that I think perfect example, social media becomes that ability for you to, feed content to your community.
Very cool. Shall we open this up to questions? Do you guys have anything you'd like to ask? There you
This is the the most important question of all is intrinsic value. The mess we are in right now. I sent an article to Yael, Tamar in March called the Castle Bravo event of crypto, which went viral. Pretty much every major crypto person has read the article. I said that this crash is going to happen because there's a big difference between intrinsic value and price. The two important things that one needs to understand. What is the intrinsic value of an asset? How do you calculate the intrinsic value of Bitcoin? How do you calculate the intrinsic value of an NFT? How do you calculate the intrinsic value of land? And these things are important. And there are scientific papers that have been written about it. I'm on Twitter at Karthik. I just tweeted a research paper talking exactly about this. How do you value a parcel of land? It just cannot be market price. It cannot be floor. It cannot be supply and demand. Because all of this is manipulated. There could be wash trades. There are people trading between each other, a bunch of OGs basically playing the market. There has to be a meaningful way in which a common man can arrive at the value of an NFT or a crypto asset or a land. And this has to be arrived. If this industry has to be stopped from imploding, right? Because NFT volumes have gone down 90%. Bored apes went from hundreds of ETH now to tens of ETH, right? So we need to figure out a way, like for example, you have price to sales, price to equity, net present value, internal rate of return, capital asset pricing model in traditional industries. There has to be a meaningful way to price this. And this is the most important question, I think, of this whole conference, which is how do you arrive at intrinsic value? So follow me on Twitter, at Karthik. I tweet about this. Look at my tokenomics masterclass on YouTube. Put in Karthik and tokenomics. It's the most watched tokenomics class, which I gave in 2018, right after the 2017 crash, on econometrics, volume and velocity modeling, Monte Carlo simulation, game theory models, mechanism design, all of that stuff. Super important. We cannot survive as an industry without that.
So I can add to that briefly. In general, when you value real estate, commercial real estate is about valuing a business. What's the opportunity to make money? Hence the intrinsic value. In residential, you look at places that are around you. I think it's going to be a combination of what other people sold it for and so on and so forth. But yeah, there you go. What about the mass adoption?
Can you repeat the question? Yeah, I think one of the main concerns is the custody of assets, the NFTs, and another that we frequently see is users and all the analytics that you can get, because these platforms are actually websites. So there has to be a way to track all these performances. Who is entering your space? How long are they staying there? What are they interacting with? These are, yeah.
We're at time almost. Last question. We just talked about that with Kostas, actually. Tell him what you told me about how much space you actually need to build something.
So depends on the platform. Generally for platforms like the Sandbox, you just need only one parcel, but it's for Decentraland, for example, you need more space. So if you are creating something, the more parcels basically you own, the higher you can build and the more detail you can add to your space. So one parcel probably won't do much for you. So we need to invest. If one parcel is like 3 Ether now, you probably need to invest at least 12 parcels, so you can have some latitude that you can play with in terms of, because the platform actually has all these constraints in the design.
That said, through the use of portals, you can then augment that space and take your user to other spaces as well, whether they're land-based or platform agnostic.
Okay, so Kostas and I did a walkthrough a while ago through Decentraland and Sandbox, just really showing everything from A to Z. So you can find that on the blog at salablog.co and on every social media. I'm thinking that there's lots of questions here left, so maybe we'll do another one of those. So why don't you follow? No, not one of questions, another walkthrough. So why don't you tweet at solidblog.co your questions, and then
Live
we'll do
walkthrough now. Let's do it.
We'll do it
Live
right
walkthrough
now
now.
off the stage. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much. And I know you have a lot of questions. Ask them on Twitter, and we'll do a walkthrough with all of those. Thank you.
Thank you.